Greetings, my friends. This is Celeria Rosenkreuz, and once more we are here at Firelink Shrine, at the start of this episode of Dark Souls See Endless Nights, episode 5. Now that we're here, it's about time that we properly start investigating this place, starting with this mysterious fellow over here. Appears to be wearing a full chain harness, save he's wearing leather gloves rather than having chain around his fingers, as at least sometimes historically was the case. His boots also seem to be essentially chain armor, but they have metal tips, making them almost like little sabatons. Regardless, let's see what this, dead-eyed person has to say.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are actually 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on, but I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
Okay, let's see here. First of all, we shall have to remember Undead Church up above. And secondly, down below somewhere we have Blight Town. And here we have a bit of loot, which I will claim first before continuing my thoughts. Oh, 3 humanity. That's quite a bit. So, let's see. He suggests that we were right. Given more than one have come with the same sort of story, it's rather clear that some interested party or another is choosing candidates to push at this supposed prophecy. Now, this man is quite pessimistic, but in at least some ways, I think that he must be right. After all, there have been many who have come before, and we are not some singular chosen one appointed by fate, or at least so it would seem for now. However, because so many have come before and failed, we have 2 options. Either those who came before were lacking in cunning, skill, might, and that essential human power known as luck, or something else is going on, which must make the task more prone to failure. Something like sabotage by the other factions. Quite possible, given we know there are competing interests at play here. Or it could be the case that there's some sort of fundamental misunderstanding of what it is that is necessary in order to accomplish, or whatever it is that these people are trying to get us to do. Probably either prolong the Age of Fire or usher in a new age based on what we learned in the intro. But yes, not much to go on, and yet, off we must go. As we do, though, let us keep our eyes peeled for traps, for ambushes, and for deception. After all, our predecessors seem to have met with little success, and there must be a reason for that. Very curious that he is calling this the land of the undead when the narrator earlier called us the land of the gods, by the way. Has this farce been going on for so long that has shifted into being the case because the numbers have simply compounded so much? Okay, there's a way down there, but let's see if we can't... Go through this way and remain a little bit closer to even keel. Ah, that is a way back here, but I don't believe it's possible to get up there right now, so let's return. Ah, the bird that grabbed us has roosted here. Interesting business. I'll have to keep that in mind. But actually, now that I think of it, there is one thing that we have to do before anything else. We must kindle this bonfire. What? Cannot kindle further without secret rite. Oh, that is deeply unfortunate. Someone must have kindled that place before. A reservoir of water. Someone is ringing bells. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Don't think there's one there either. But one, there's definitely stuff going on over there, and by all these blood stains, I'm going to guess that there are monsters that rise up in this graveyard, as you'd expect. But let's see if we can't find our way upwards. Ah. Lost soul of an undead. Okay, I have to make sure. Yes. I have an idea, I should say. That bird that wanted warm and soft. It must accept humanity because humanity is what causes the bonfires to actually, be lit. If it's a fuel source, I'm sure that it's going to be at least metaphorically warm, so you need to at least check in and see if it makes sense. Or I should say, if that makes sense. Okay, so that won't work. Oh. A statue of a woman and a baby sitting upon what looks like a throne that was hewn out of a tree stump. That looks like important religious iconography. I don't know what it could mean as of now, but I'll be trying to keep an eye for something like that in the future. Oh, and an empty chest. How unfortunate. Jumping is not anywhere near as good in this game as in Elden Ring. Anyway, I'm sure we can get up to that crow, but I can't figure it out right now. Let's instead consider going up this way. Okay. I guess. Let's see. This man, he wears a rather fancy armor. Much more refined than that crestfallen warrior, with many leather-clad plates protecting his upper arms and thighs, as well as a large shoulder pauldron set, and a breastplate with folds underneath. Very paranoid levels of upper body covering. Morning Stars have also been very strong against skeletal undead in FromSoft games, so I must expect to face those here. Very colorful shield.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thurland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
Okay, so Petrus of Thurland. The land of clerics. His name means rock, and it's clearly the case that he's named after St. Peter. Perhaps he or his faith is averse to undead. That might explain why he doesn't want to be near me. But, regardless, I will press on.
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance. But I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
Okay. That's interesting. A copper coin. Coin made of copper shows the face of Old Man McLoif, god of medicine and drink. Even coins of great value in the world of men have little value in Lordran, where the accepted currency is souls. Those who dream of returning to the outside world are fond of carrying these around, however. Very curious. That's a new god that we haven't heard of. Old Man McLoif. If he lives out in the world of men rather than Lordran, which seems like it's at least possible because of the fact that the coin is minted elsewhere and holds value elsewhere, but not here, then that would probably mean that he's not wanting to stay around in the place that the first of the gods set up shop. Maybe they still have power and influence here. Maybe followers of these gods are not the followers of the pantheon that Old Man McLoif is a part of. Seems to be some sort of drama or conspiracy brewing behind the scenes that we can't quite penetrate as of yet. Interesting that he gave us a coin to show his goodwill, especially since we don't really use those coins here. Regardless, let's see what else he has to say.
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you?
I suppose.
Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods.
The Way of White. Interesting. Thank you, random achievement pop-up. White. That actually contradicts what I was thinking before. Because Gwen means white. So at the very least, it seems to be the case that this religion and Old Man McLoif is probably connected with Gwyn in some way. Maybe a second generation of followers or children that came afterwards? Well, I don't have a covenant currently. I might as well. I'm a thief and somewhat dishonorable, so I might just break free of the covenant later. That is a really fast and frivolous little contract we've got going on. That he would induct us into his faith so frivolously is odd. Because he has nothing better to do? Because we perhaps annoyed him? Well.
Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith.
But yes, it is good to confirm that miracles are indeed soul magic, dependent on the user for power. Let's, Shrug. That is quite interesting. Why would a shrug be associated with this cleric? I don't have souls enough for any of these. But let us see what we might find out of them. Fortunately, it doesn't require us to purchase them in order to get the lore. Great Heal Excerpt. Slots 1. Uses 1. Great Miracle cast by Advanced Clerics. Restores high HP. Great Heal Excerpt borrows from only several verses of Great Heal. As a result, it can only be cast a stark few times. That makes it sound like this person isn't all too diligent. Curious. Maybe that has something to do with the level of commitment he has to his faith. Great Miracle cast by Advanced Clerics. Returns to last bonfire rested at. That is pretty useful. Would normally link to one's homeland, only the curse of the undead has distorted its power, redirecting casters to a bonfire. Or, perhaps for undead, this serves as home. That has profound implications. Not only are people able to teleport back to their homeland at will, which would be very, very useful in war, but beyond that, undead aren't able to be linked to a homeland. They've been severed from any cultural ties to wherever they used to be before they were reborn as undead. And they become free spirits, able to link up with any place of rest that they can find. The fire is their home. And perhaps that is because of the humanity that is used to fuel the fire. I don't know, but at the very least, undead seem to want humanity. Something to think about in the future. Force, common miracle amongst cleric knights, creates a shockwave. This quickly acting miracle inflicts no damage but propels foes back and defends against arrows. Cleric knights use this miracle when charging into enemy mobs. Interesting. Good to know that 1, there are actual cleric knights, and 2, that they have very interesting strategies that prevent them from taking the umbrage of people who close in without them being prepared. Seek guidance. Slots used 1, uses 5. That is... Force had significantly more uses and I didn't notice. 21. Very nice. But seek guidance. Miracle of clerics on an undead mission. So there are special undead missions that clerics embark under. That is something that we need to keep in mind. Display more guidance from other worlds. So is that something that only undead can actually see, and that's why you have undead clerics who are able to cast this? And, well, there are definitely undead clerics because Homeward references that in its description. So, undead missions, are those by undead clerics? Or is it a mission to the undead? Regardless, display more guidance from other worlds. If this is something that is only available to undead, that could be very interesting because it could mean undead have a special sort of untethering to the current world that they're experiencing and might have some sort of way to peer into worlds beyond. That would make them special, which could lend itself to prejudice against them. And we do know that there is prejudice against the undead. The question more is why. Guidance facilitates communication between undead, but their value varies greatly. A balance of faith and wisdom is required. Wisdom isn't a stat, but it means a practical application of it. Let's see. And finally, heal. Elementary miracle cast by clerics. Uses 5. Restores HP. Based on this next line, this suggests this is one of the first miracles a cleric is supposed to learn. To cast a miracle, the caster learns a tale of the gods and says a prayer to be blessed by its revelations. Heal is the shortest of such miraculous tales. So, faith requires you memorizing some sort of historical event, which is connected to divinity, and by directing your soul to that event, by memorizing it and resonating with it, you are able to call upon a power from within yourself, because the soul magic is powered by faith, to activate some sort of idea that is reflected in the tale. This presumably would mean that there's some sort of survival of the fittest for tales of that sort, and so miracles might come and go to some degree, or might potentially have some sort of, I guess it says it's based on the personal faith, so it wouldn't be based on what other people think. It's just whether you know that miracle. So it's a matter of miracle stock actually varying by time and place, because different people will memorize different things. But as long as you know the miracle and you're able to actually embrace it, then you're able to pull magic out of your soul. This has very interesting implications insofar as it sounds like you could theoretically make up a miracle, fabricate a fable, and it would still power magic. It's just the belief in the tale that actually matters. So we're going to have to be very scrupulous with interpreting how miracles work in the future. Gonna have to try to find out if they potentially line up with actual stories that are told by people and other items in the world. We'll keep that in mind.
My companions are Milady and her young knights. She is young, but burdened by an undead mission. We are her defenses, to keep her from harm.
Okay. So he's here to protect another pilgrim, though perhaps one of a different sort. Or so it would seem at the very least. Let's see. Does he have anything else to say when I talk to him again?
An undead mission? Regrettably, I cannot share that with you. But you are my pupil. Perhaps if you show your faith.
Okay. I would say show my faith in what respect? But, show your dedication requires 800 souls? That makes it very, very apparent the sort of person that this individual is. It is a bribe, just as he bribed us with that gift earlier. Corruption doesn't reflect well on his character, and it makes one wonder about the character of the institution that he serves. Especially given it's so easy to become a member of the Way of White Covenant. Faith should not be something undertaken so lightheartedly, so simply, without any sort of forethought or trial. If he values money so much, I wonder if that's actually reflected in his prices, now that I think of it. I couldn't even begin to afford any of those, so... He decided to use his faith as an opportunity to make money, and that's why he suggested that we join his covenant and claim souls. That's the kind of rat that this man is. How disconcerting. I suppose his fancy armor reflects in his vicious character. Maybe that morning star is in fact referencing Lucifer, then.
I'm afraid that may be difficult, for our missions are sacred.
Yes. You definitely value
Come again.
sacred missions.
The effectiveness of the teachings depend upon your faith.
That's probably just about the only thing that's entirely true that you said. At the very least, your money-grubbing character makes me doubt your truth otherwise. Dear, oh dear. Oh dear. Well, that didn't work out. Interesting. Well, seems the thief has found a secret passage. Most excellent. Cracked red eye orb. Morning star and talisman. And 6 homeward bones. Let's see what this says. Cracked red eye orb. Online play item, invade another world. Hollows cannot use this item. So, the fact that I have my humanity allows me to theoretically do PvP. Defeats the master of the world you have invaded to acquire humanity. The cracked red eye orb allows the player to temporarily imitate the ability normally limited to dark wraiths of Koth. I don't know who Koth is, or the dark wraiths, but... well, this is interesting. What sort of red eye can it mean? Red eye. Seems important. Unfortunately, I can't actually really comment on that. Homeward bone. Bone fragment reduced to white ash, and yet it's still in the form of a bone. Return to the last bonfire used for resting. Bonfires are fueled by bones of the undead. Now that's curious because we don't actually know that that's true. In fact, it seems that it's the humanity of the undead which is not the bones. So, well, maybe it's both. Maybe it's fueled by both the bones and the humanity of the undead. Maybe some undead lay themselves down in the bonfires and their humanity ignites along with the rest of their body. In rare cases, the strong urge of their previous owner to seek the bonfires enchants these bones with a homeward instinct. Very curious. So the body is infused with the will of the spirits that once inhabited it. That sounds like undead is not just going to be a matter of the player character and the similar people that are of the class equivalent to Tarnished here. Sounds like we will have Skelemen to deal with. Let's see. Soul of a lost undead who has long ago gone hollow, used to acquire souls. Souls are the source of all life, and whether undead or even hollow, one continues to seek them. We already know what humanity is, or at the very least, we've looked at it before. Dark sign. The dark sign signifies an accursed undead. Accursed by who? Accursed by whoever branded them. Those branded with it are reborn after death, but will one day lose their mind and go hollow. Interesting stuff, that. Death triggers the dark sign, which returns its bearer to the last bonfire rested at. Interesting that the dark sign functions like a homeward bone, but only for those who have already died. But at the cost of all humanity and souls. So it eats the fuel that you have available in order to activate that teleportation, whereas the homeward bone just eats itself. And let's see here. Straight Sword Hill, we already saw that. Let's see. Actually, I don't think I looked at the information here. The hilt of this lost sword was found discarded at the Undead Asylum, only slightly better than one's bare hands. Ah, no, we did look at this. But it's wrong. It's not better than one's bare hands. Certainly not for my character, at the very least. And Morning Star. Hammer, quote-unquote, I guess it should mean bludgeon, with a sharp spike on its pommel. Very interesting. So it has spikes on both sides. One of the more barbaric cleric weapons. So it's not only that it's associating that man with the devil, it's suggesting that he has an especially cruel personality. Good to note. Uniquely, this hammer inflicts thrust damage, causing bleeding. Ooh. Sounds like it's especially good on the living. I wonder why that cleric happens to be, wielding this weapon here. It's very curious that it actually says it's inflicts thrust damage and causes bleeding, emphasizing that over the fact that, as I said previously, in previous FromSoft games, Morning Stars have been quite useful against skeletal undead. It feels like there must be a reason for it to emphasize the bleeding and thrust damage there. Anyway, here, Talisman. Attack type Strike, medium for casting miracles of the gods. Standard Talisman issued to the common believer. Equip Talisman to cast miracles. Attune miracles from a scroll at a bonfire. Most miracles have limited numbers of uses. Yes, we know that. And that's about it. Let's continue on then. Ah, even more chests. That's nice. Lloyd Talisman now. That's interesting. Oh, Lloyd Talisman can't be used in the main hand? Can it be used in the offhand? No. So what does this Lloyd Talisman do? Lloyd Talisman prevents Estus recovery within a limited area. Anti-undead armament. Interesting. Talisman utilized by All-Father Lloyd's cleric knights to hunt down the undead. Ah. That guy seemed like he was a cleric knight since he was selling cleric knight miracles. So he must actually be playing nice, but he's actually a hunter of undead. And that might be part of why he's actually here. Though to be fair, he could still be being truthful. He might be defending his, lady from undead that he expects will be attacking here. Ah, yeah. Undead eventually go crazy because of the dark side. That's what it is. You need to have someone who's specialized in hunting the undead if you have a mission here to this quote-unquote land of undead. In the outside worlds, the undead are accursed creatures, and Lloyd's cleric knights are widely praised for their undead hunts. Oh, I see. That's what's going on. Trained for prejudice, meant to oppress. This blessed talisman blocks undead recovery, allowing the knights to fight with impunity. I wonder, Way of White Covenant, is it the case that the undead were always actually... No. Because Gwyn originally was from a time before the undead. Humanity hadn't even really emerged when he first came out, it seems. So, this must be a late development. Because of the fact that the undead are rising up so much, either Gwyn is still around and has authorized this All-Father Lloyd person, who has a mighty lofty title for someone who is subservient to the founder of the Way of White, if that is actually the case and they weren't just dedicated to him outside of his realm of influence, which might be true, since he's at the very least seeming to rule from here in Lordran, and those people come from a land outside Lordran. Anyway, they dedicate themselves to Gwyn, but they have a leader of some sort called All-Father Lloyd. This supposed All-Father is putting himself in a position of probably actually being king of the gods, which strongly implies he is in fact a replacement for Gwyn after Gwyn perished. At the very least, that's how it seems, based on our earlier conjecture in the startup sequence that Gwyn might have died, and that might be why the Age of Fire is coming to an end. This corroborates that theory, though it is obviously something that will need a lot more evidence to really take up a lot of weight. Regardless, as the Age of Fire presses on, this person, All-Father Lloyd, who may have self-proclaimed himself the king of the gods, we don't know, but he's certainly not ruling an order that necessarily is super popular in the realm of the gods, since it sounds like the undead missions are led here. Or at the very least, there is an undead mission that is being led here. We don't know if it's only to this region. To be fair, it could be the case that they're led wherever undead are. Regardless, his men operate largely in the world of the living, because They are very famous in the outside world for hunting down the undead, and that is because of the fact that it must be the case undead are considered an actual problem. We know that they have large amounts of prejudice, and that's probably because the dark sign will eventually turn them crazy, but presumably it's also the case that since everyone is being brought into this pogrom up north, it must be the case that there's a lot of prejudice regardless of how far along in the degradation they are, and it must be the problem that is that actually a problem that they're manufacturing? We know undead are being manufactured. People are placing the dark sign on them. Is the Way of White... did it rise to power by creating the undead and hunting them down themselves? Well, that seems like a bit of a reach right now. They're definitely an anti-undead dedicated organization, but we don't know how it's been founded. It could have been the case that they were around a lot longer, and they could have been founded by Gwyn and just spread to the area outside of Lortrin. We don't know. What we know so far is pretty ominous about them. It sounds like they might be power-hungry people, especially since the one Way of Light cleric that we know is a very vicious person who's being compared to the devil by his weapon of choice. Not great. Not a great recommendation for this Way of White that I tumbled myself into. Anyway. Can I equip the Morningstar? Insufficient strength to wield with one hand, hold it with two hands. Okay. Okay. Ha-ha! Whoa. Ow! They dealt a lot of damage to me. I thought I hit one of them, but it looked like his HP went back to full immediately. Yeah, I've got to see what that's going on about. Good thing I know how to get back there. Okay. That's not good. Oh! Darn it, I should have used my flask. I thought I had them in a tight, confined area there. These skeletons are really nimble. Dagger so much. So that guy might be a bit of a problem. Hey, that worked out much better than I thought. Sorry, little Skelebub. You got. Love it when level geometry works with you. No! Oh well. Now let's see what we have here. Large soul of a lost undead. Large soul of a lost undead who's long gone hollow. Souls are the source of all life, and whether undead or even hollow, one continues to seek them. Here we go. Winged Spear. I don't have the strength. I do have the dexterity to use that. I wonder why it's showing it. Maybe it's that I would be able to wield it two-handed. A long-hilted spear with a barbed point, long reach, and can be used with a shield up. Effective against hard exteriors and hits for high damage at the right moment of an enemy's swing. But the hit radius is small and it is easily blocked by shields. Good to keep in mind, though. I think that would be a nice weapon. Oh, yes. Caduceus Round Shield. Now, the Caduceus historically is a symbol of the god Hermes. It's a very quixotic sort. This is actually the god of thievery in the real world who wields the Caduceus. But it's worth noting that there are twin serpents on there, which evokes the twin dragon ring that's from Kingsfield. See, in Kingsfield 1, you had a dragon that was actually called both the green dragon and the black dragon, and until the very end of the game, you didn't know that those were actually the same entity. In fact, it was a forest dragon who had skin or scales that were black but had little bits of green coming out, as if it was wearing moss on itself. Or maybe had little bitty sprouts. Regardless, I think I'll take that for good luck. My character being a thief, it does feel right. It's a little bit worse in some ways, but it's also at the same time lighter. Lightness does matter. Also, it looks like an Omega, and we're in the end times, baby. Oh, one last thing. It also seems very similar to Nico Bolas's horns. It's an elder dragon god from this wonderful, wonderful thing called Magic the Gathering. He also has a gem in the middle of the horns that just floats there. Very similar to this boss that's in the middle of this wooden shield. I hear that Miyazaki is a fan of Magic the Gathering, so that's probably worth noting. There might be some sort of relationship between Nicol Bolas and whoever these twin snakes that are being are being placed on this shield symbolically might be. Haha, stupid Scalaman. Okay. Goodness gracious. But we got him. Okay. So, that looks like a nasty challenge. There's also something down here. What is this? That leads into darkness and probably danger, so we're not going to be going there. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. Zweihander, excellent. Run away! I can't take two of those giant ones at once. Excellent. Oh, it was only one giant and a little guy? Oh no, it was one giant and 3 little guys. No way they would be able to take those on. Anyway, let's see what we have here. Zweihander. One of the gigantic straight swords. Weapon type, Ultra Great Sword. As the name suggests, the Zweihander is held with 2 hands, but its wielder must still be of inhumanly strong character. It is this great weight that sends foes flying when hit solidly. That sounds really nice. My character's not a strength build, so it's probably gonna take a little while if I'm gonna be using that at all. So, 24 strength, 10 dexterity. Interesting. Worth noting that in real life it requires much more dexterity than that. The Zweihander is a very fluid sword, and you have to be constantly trying to keep your balance and making sure that you look every which way in order to properly use it. Regardless, there's one more additional weapon. No, not a weapon. Item. This is wonderful. Binoculars. Binoculars made of brass used to peer at distant scenery. This advanced device was built by a famous craftsman in Astora, and its utility is singular, but its applications are many. The value of these specs depends greatly on the imagination of the owner. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Look at this. We can see the details of the chain now on him. And we can tell that it's actually the case that that foot piece he's wearing, the sabatons, actually go up quite a bit his leg. Much more substantial than I thought. So they're protecting his ankles as well as his feet. Good to know. And yeah, I'm not gonna stay to the Morning Star if I have to go and fight other creatures than skeletal undead. I think this has probably been good enough. We've had an interesting journey, been killed by skeletons way too many times, and begun to get a little bit of extra information about the lore of this world. And we'll be able to see much, much more in the future. Look at this. These are insane castle defenses. This place is wrapped up in wall after wall after wall, and those are thick stone walls as well. Whoever built this place must have been so afraid of invasion. They must have thought there must be some sort of massive landbound force that would be able to crush any lesser defense, and they just had to keep on building up those walls. Anyway, this has been Firelink Shrine. I am sure that there is a little bit more to explore here. We still have that path up there, which seems to lead upwards, probably towards that undead church. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna go through this other pathway here. Could go back over that way, I won't. Over here. Ah! Free stuff. Good. Firebombs are a most useful thing to have. Oh. And I have a hotbar. Binoculars, baby. Now I can use them whenever I need to. That's some good stuff. Next time! Next time, we go upwards and onwards. We shall find our way to the undead church, and we're gonna have fun doing it. But more importantly, we will find out more about this world. Until then, this has been Celeria Rosenkreuz. And I shall enjoy seeing you again next time. For dark souls see only nights, and we shall see many nights together. Farewell.